Welcome back to the Aussie Shed, ladies and gentlemen. There's been a strange noise of late emanating from the shop air compressor. Sitting down there under the bench. I'll turn him on and give you a listen. As you can tell, something's definitely not right. So it's time to pull the old girl out, do a little bit of troubleshooting, find out exactly what's going on. And there she is, ladies and gentlemen, in all her glory. This is my Australian-made Mcmillan air compressor. An oldie but a goodie. Belt drive, I think it's about 10 CFM. I've had this old girl for near on 30 years, I reckon. It's up until about 5 years ago, its entire service life was mounted into one of my vehicles as part of a mobile workshop setup. And it's been in and out of various vehicles over its life, but that's been its entire job. It's literally worked its ass off, and it's never ever broken down. Never given me a moment of trouble in 30 years, and this thing has done some work, let me tell you. So I think it's only fair that we investigate what's going on and see if we can fix it. Made back in the day when we actually used to make stuff in Australia instead of just buying it from China. And there's the result. 30 years of service, not a problem. And I'll be damned if I'm going to sacrifice this great old girl for some new Chinese-made piece of crap. So, let's get a few things off and see if we can find out what's going on. Alrighty, the drive belt is off, and it would appear that all the noise is coming from the bearings in the electric motor. Pump head itself seems fine. No strange noises, no weird play, but the motor on the other hand, that ain't a happy noise. So, I think it's time to get the motor off and get it on the bench. Alrighty, so the motor's happily here sitting on the bench now. We've got the front pulley off. Always a bit of a drama, ladies and gentlemen, getting these pulleys off. It's an aluminium pulley. They're not the strongest of things, and they're very easy to damage. Often quite awkward to get a puller onto them. You can see here, this is a puller that I use, just a 3-leg puller. You know, this sort of style. Very nice. That's one of the standard ends, and you can see this guy here, I've ground it down substantially compared to that, so I could actually fit it in behind the pulley here, so it would actually fit through the jaw and get onto the back of the pulley with the small amount of clearance that was there. You know, sometimes you just got to think outside the box to be able to do things. The legs on this pulley are double-ended, so this end here remains untouched. I can always flip it and use that again anyway, but you know, nothing wrong with going at your tools with a grinder for a bit of modification. It's the way things get done anyway. So yep, 3-jaw puller, pretty easy. Just took a bit of thought to work out how the hell I was going to get it in there to get it to lock on. If you try to use a 3-jaw puller like this on the outside of an aluminium pulley like this, you'll just basically tear the outside off it. You need to get into the center of that shaft there, or find some other way to do it. It looks like the shaft here has got possibly Loctite or something on it. You can see there's something's been put on there before the pulley was slid on. I'd say possibly one of the Loctites, and there's a grub screw sitting in the top. Just something you have to be careful with, folks. There's nothing worse than breaking things while you're trying to do a repair. At this stage it appears that the only problem with this motor is bearings. The motor itself was running absolutely fine. You can see this is a dual capacitor motor. It's got a start and a run capacitor. It's quite a beefy old thing. So I think what I might do is just pull it down, get the shaft out of the center and replace the bearings. It's a fairly easy process to do this type of thing. These bolts on the casing, you can see there's 4 of them here. They generally go right through the motor. They'll be big long fellas, and that'll be them there on the other end. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll undo those, then we should be able to just get the casing apart. like so, and get to the shaft in the middle, slide it out, have a look at the bearings. So I'll grab a little socket and we'll get into it. So it's just a little bit tricky getting this away from the back here. There's like a couple of fingers that go between the bearing on the back of this particular type of motor. I'll give you a bit of a better look at it once I kind of get it all apart. Just zoom up on that. You can see this arrangement here where you have these sort of spring-loaded doovalackies and they go underneath the bearing, so it stops you sort of pulling the whole lot out. I had a bit of a look in there with a torch and just slid it sideways. There's enough slack in the wiring to slide it sideways to clear the bearing, and then once that's done, the cover comes away slightly and we should be able to withdraw the center of the motor from the other side. So just turning that way, now we should be able to just pull this whole assembly out in this direction like so. So you can see this is our rear bearing on here. Yeah, doesn't sound real great. Looks like the bearing is held into some sort of an arrangement on the front here. There's a couple of bolt heads in there. We'll pull that apart and see if that'll if that'll allow it to be removed quickly and easily. But you can see it's quite a beefy motor. This bearing will come off nice and easy. It's just a matter of getting a puller around it. You can see there's already a center mark in the middle of the shaft there that we can use to locate on to pull this bearing off. 6203Z, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and sounds absolutely terrible. She's had quite the life, this motor. Nothing's burnt though, I don't think. We'll give it a good blowout and a good clean up before we reassemble it. But at the moment, I'll just get this off the bench. But at the moment, it's all about the bearings on this side of the shaft. So I'll undo these couple of little fellas here, and we'll see if that allows us to get the front of this off without applying any force to it. See all the grit here that's come out of this. Like I said, she hasn't had an easy life. Bit of oil staining around there. I'd say that's probably from the bearing. I'll just bring him over here and sit him in my vise. I've just sat it lightly here on my vise. I've got this old woodworking vise that I've rebuilt. It's got aluminium plates in it instead of timber jaws. It's really handy for doing all sorts of stuff. Perfect for doing something like this where you need something that you can set something big in and just give it a little bit of a tap. Hopefully this should do the job. There we go. Beautiful. Very nice. Alright. So this is our other bearing, obviously. And she is rooted. Lots of play. Very notchy. And I'll just clean him up and get a bit of a look at the number. Okay, this one appears to be a 6204Z. They're both NSKs. Good quality bearings. I'd accept nothing less from a decent quality made in Australian device. So I'll go and order a couple of new bearings. Once we got those, we'll press these guys off, press the new ones on, reassemble it. Well, that escalated quickly, ladies and gentlemen. Couple of beers, and before you know it, I've got the damn compressor completely torn apart. So it looks like I'm doing a full compressor rebuild. Damn. At this stage though, I think it'll just be a rub down and a coat of paint, just to tidy the old girl up, give her a new dress. Pump head's over here sitting on a shelf ready to go back on. Nothing actually at all wrong with that. Head gasket's good, no oil leaks. It's performed particularly well over the years, so no point tearing it apart until something goes wrong with it, so that can just sit over there until it's ready to go back on. So it's just a matter of repainting the air tank and everything. Finish the motor off, repaint it, reassemble it. I'll put a new gauge on it as well, I think. The gauge that was on it was broken. Just a result of having it in a mobile vehicle. Something's obviously just leant up against it and smashed the glass and damaged it a bit. So I'd like to make it looking at least a bit tidy so it can sit in the corner of the shed without being too much of a disgrace. You can see the bearings are now off this shaft here. Back one came off real easy. I just used the 3-jaw puller again. Plenty of room to get on the end of it, get the jaw in behind it to get it off. This front one was a little bit more of a drama. You can see it goes up against the circlip here. That governs how far it's pressed on, and it was right up against this plastic fan arrangement there, so no room to get the jaws in behind it. So I did this one in the press. It was just a bit easier. I could slide some metal plates in behind it and then just press it off. So they're both off now. They're in pretty bad shape. It's probably been making a bit of noise for a while, and I haven't really paid too much attention to it. So yeah, still just waiting on these bearings. Once I've got those, we can press that all back together. In the meantime, I think I will repaint the casing for the motor. So say now I've decided to actually, repaint and kind of tidy up the whole compressor. So say the magic beer fairies made me disassemble it. Bastards. So yeah, looks like it's turned into more of a job than I originally intended, which is what bloody happens all the time. Damn it. Well, they finally arrived, ladies and gentlemen. After sitting for quite some time in the Australia Post Snail Sorting Centre, I finally have them here in my hot little hands on the Aussie shed bench. Couple of Natchies. Should be a suitable replacement for the old NSKs. Another Japanese made bearing. I must admit I am guilty of occasionally using Chinese bearings, but only on stuff that I've got pretty easy access to and stuff that doesn't really matter that much. All things appear to be good. Sizing's perfect. Matching part numbers. We'll go and put these where they belong. Righto. So, I might just throw this back one on the bench here, rather than taking it to the press. You can see there's a circlip here which is used to set the depth of the bearing on this end. So we'll just push him down until it sits up against that circlip. So we'll just give him a couple of light taps. started. What have we got here? That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Beautiful. Next one. We'll see. Might be able to do it here. I'll just pull back a bit. Oh no, that's pretty good. Alright. Same deal once again. We have a circlip down the bottom of the shaft here. I think this should go on pretty easy by the look of this. I've just got a couple of spaces here, just a bit of thin wall pipe. Should be fine. That gets me down to that position. And then a socket over the top that I can just use to drive it down. Alright. I could go and do it in the press, but honestly it's pretty simple to do this here. We'll see what it goes down like. If it's moving pretty easy, we'll just do it here. It's going pretty good. Not too bad at all. And that is it. No need for the press. That's what we like. Nice and easy. And there she is. All ready to be installed. So I think the next step is to reinstall the front cover. In this front cover, if you probably recall, there's these two screws in the center. What these are a little stud that just traps the bearing. So to get this assembly together, you just sit these on so that they clear the bearing, and then once the cover is in place over the bearing, you then turn it from the outside and you can see it locks down over the bearing, and then you just torque it up from this side here. So I'll just do that now. I'll just put these on, get this front cover back in position. I'll just give this cover a little bit of a tap down. Obviously to get it to fit snugly over the bearing, it's just a little bit tight. That's her. These pins have dropped through into position now. Throw the nuts back on these. They're quite fiddly little buggers, these guys. Hard to get your fingers in behind and turn them, and you know, all that sort of stuff. Pretty bloody typical, really. Very nice. I'll just grab the motor housing. There she is. So, we should be able to just slip this straight in. Yeah, just this tricky little bit at the back here. Hopefully, it should be alright. Alright, we've got a wave washer here that's got to go in first. Just get that in. I'll stick a little bit of grease on that, I think, just to hold it in position. Should keep him there. Now, he's a bit of a juggling act, this one. I think that is just about it. Alright, we'll just throw the electrical cover back on. We should be good to go. And that is looking pretty damn good. Very nice. We'll hook her up and give her a test run. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, she's temporarily hooked up to the power. The time has come for the big test. So, I'll flick her on and fingers crossed, we'll see if she's going to work. Here we go. Oh, look at that. It's a win, ladies and gentlemen. It's a win. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Changing the bearings in your electric motor is simply a piece of piss. Now all we got to do is give her a nice new fresh coat of paint, reinstall the pulley, mount it back onto the air tank, reassemble the whole unit. Air tank's sitting here ready for paint. It's had a good rub down, all surface rust, chips out of the paint, all been rubbed down. Just got to give it a bit of a buzz over with a whizzer and get some paint on that. So paint on that, paint on the motor, reassembly time. So thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen. That's all for today. In part 2, I'll have these components all painted up and we'll do a nice, new, fresh reassembly and get this sucker to make some compressed air. Until then, thanks for watching. Cheers.